now, coming at you from the 5-Star Physique Studio in Knoxville, Tennessee, this is The Drop Set with your host, Darren Starr.
It is me. Yes. Hello, everybody. How are you doing? Thanks for listening. Episode 181 here of The Drop Set. I'm recording on, what is it? Wednesday, April 21st. It's 11:30 in the morning. And I figured, hey, no time like the present. Let's do it. So I had grand plans last week, Monday, of recording an episode. I had some things to discuss. Nothing super critical that couldn't wait. And the thing is, if you follow me on Instagram, I'm not making a huge deal of it, but I've mentioned it a couple times. I have shingles right now, which this will become the shingles awareness episode of the Drop Set. Just what everybody wanted, I know. So the way it works, apparently, for those who are not familiar, the uninitiated, please do not interpret this as medical advice or assume it to be accurate in any way, because I am going off of a slightly hazy memory of what I read online. But apparently, if you have chickenpox as a kid, that chickenpox virus will just sits dormant in your body until it decides to get reactivated at some later date in life. And for me, that later date was April 4th. Of this year for some reason. And usually it hits you when you're older. And the factors that can keep it, that can cause it to come back are significant stress episodes, like, death in the family, something like that. Well, there's nothing like that here. I wish my dog would poop outside more regularly. Derby, I'm looking at you. But she does a pretty good job. That's really about the thing that stresses me out the most. It's not too bad. Work is stressful, but it always is. There's nothing special now. Or a compromised immune system. And they say often it will come about if you have a cancer diagnosis or something like that. So immediately I'm like, oh shit, Jesus, I hope not. God, I feel okay. I have felt okay otherwise. So I don't know. But what did happen is my symptoms started on April 4th, and I got my first COVID vaccine on April 2nd. So my theory, without proof or anything like that, is I got the vaccine. I didn't experience any direct symptoms from that. A lot of people will experience flu-like symptoms. I didn't. I think probably because my immune system worked to fight it off, but then my immune system was compromised a little bit, and that virus found a pathway to reactivate. So that's my theory. I don't know. And if that is correct, I would do it again in a heartbeat, because who cares, come on. And I will have to do it again in 9 days. Actually, I go back in for shot number 2. So that's interesting. But the outcome of shingles, like the only thing that I knew, and this was based on like commercials for what I assume now is Valtrex, which is the medication, the antiviral that they give you for it. And it's like the default recommendation prescription that everybody takes for shingles. So I'm assuming there was commercials for that I saw on TV some years back when they were pushing that. I know that there's like some kind of a rash associated with it. And so I got that. I won't go into details on it, but it was pretty small. And it itched like it was nuts. It was like hydrocortisone. Come on, just give me a bath in that crap. But the thing that happened, the symptoms that I got initially were this burning pain in my leg. It was weird. I'm like, well, I did a leg workout a couple days back. Is this just soreness from that? It feels more superficial. Like it feels like it's the skin, but I look and I'm like, the skin's fine. I don't know. And then this rash develops, not in the same area. I'm like, well, that's weird. And I'm like, well, what is that? And so I'm Googling symptoms, and I put the two of them together, and it says, oh, it's probably shingles. I'm like, oh, so the leg is actually nerve pain is what that is. So those are both ways in which shingles manifests itself. So the pain in the leg was really secondary at first, and then the rash was like the itching, and plus it just looks gross as hell. You're like, oh my god, I look like the Elephant Man. This is awful. And, some people do get it like on their neck and their face. You can get it in your eye, and that could actually lead to blindness. So but that was like, okay, it came and then it's pretty much totally healed and gone now. And then that's when the nerve pain started to ratchet up a bit. And the best way that I could describe it is it feels like a sunburn that's constantly getting slapped. That's how it feels. Like you look and you expect to see like bright red lobster skin, and it's nothing. There's absolutely nothing abnormal about how the skin looks where it is. So right now it's on my left quad, starting about 4 inches above the knee. And it comes up from there. It goes inside to the adductor. It goes outside to the gluteus medius, up around the waist, just a little left of center, and then around to the gluteus max, and then up into the lower back flank around your kidney right there. That's where it is, all on the left side for me. And for a while, and that the concern there is it seems like it's actually spreading, even as it kind of lessens in severity. For a while last week, it was like about an 8 out of 10 pretty much all the time. It was pretty miserable. Right now, it's about, I would say, a 4 or a 5 out of 10. Again, pretty much all the time. Worse when I'm up and walking around, or when I'm sleeping and I like turn over on my side. It'll wake me up every time. I'm a big flopper back and forth one side to the other in my sleep, and now every time I turn over it wakes me up. So as a result of that, and maybe just on its own also, just like really, really tired all the time. And so I'm in a position now where it's like, well, I've just got to kind of ignore this for now. And there are medications you can take for nerve pain that are designed for that. They're non-opioids, things like gabapentin and stuff like that. So I'm investigating options like that, just because this could be something that goes on for a little while. Sometimes it lasts for a couple weeks. Sometimes it lasts for several months. There are cases, if you read online, where people deal with it coming on and off for years. So not really excited about that. So that's the situation. So right now I'm playing around with, well, do I go back to working out just lightly, just because I've taken upwards of a week and a half off at this point, about like 10 days. And I don't know. I did try yesterday. I'm like, let me just do 20 minutes of arms, something really easy and controlled and predictable. It's not lower body, and see how it goes. And it went okay. I mean, everything responded pretty readily. It was ready to work. Muscles responded nicely after being rested for so long. Because last week, really, all I did was like work, nap, eat, sleep. That's it. So my diet remained on point, but I didn't do anything physically. Like there were days where like I didn't even walk my dogs, and then I'd go on a walk with them, take them out, and like have to cut it short. Like, I'm only doing half of this. It's like, it gets to you. That's the thing. I mean, it's uncomfortable. There's pain associated with it. And then yesterday I decided to be a hero and do a full walk with him. I was like dragging ass on the way home. Like I barely made it. And then I laid down and took a nap for 2 hours. So, it kind of beats your ass. It really does. It sucks. And so I'm thinking like, how on earth could I prep through this? I can't. So it's good that it's happening now. And I've got some time to sort this out and figure out. So now it's like the rest of my growth phase is not really so much about growing as much as possible, but it's going to be about managing this and seeing how I can, mitigate symptoms and get over it and get it put behind me. So it feels like a massive wasted opportunity. I'm really annoyed about that. But by the same token, could always be worse. So, yeah, it's frustrating. I ain't gonna lie, but it could be worse. So, the worst part is, the worst part is the pain, and just like a simple act of like walking up the stairs, you're like, grin and bear it all the way up, all the way down, and you just can't do anything that's considered like a normal activity without it really feeling like something that is a lot harder than it should be. So things like training legs, I can't imagine doing that. Even something like training chest and trying to do a dumbbell press. Like, how do you start a dumbbell press? Well, it's with the dumbbells on your legs before you kick them back up. So that would be a problem. Any kind of unpredictable movement, like the worst thing is when I'm walking in the kitchen and I bump into the counter. And before it was like, oh, ow, that sucks. And now it's like, oh my God, I feel like I'm going to die. Because, it's like your sunburn just got slapped. It sucks. It sucks. So anyway, I'm not going to be whining, bitching, and moaning about that. I mean, I realize I have been here for a little bit, but I'm mostly working that out of my system right now. But it's really slowed me down. So like, if you've contacted me through my website, you at this point, you've probably gotten a response from me. I think just about everybody has, but it was really slowing me down last week. Just because I was doing bare essentials. It was like doing client check-ins, and that's about it. I didn't really have energy or anything for much anything else. So, really a bit of an ass kicker. I'm not 1 out of 10 would not recommend. So no, don't do it. If you're considering contracting shingles, I would strongly advise against it. Down that path lies only madness. Do not go there. Now, how do you prevent that? Yeah, I don't think you can. Well, I mean, you can get vaccinated for it, but I think you have to be a certain age for that. That's what people keep telling me. I haven't looked into that yet. So I'm going to say age for shingles vaccine. Why do you have to be 50 to get the shingles vaccine? Well, there's something. So risk of getting it is relatively low among younger people. Screw you. If you had chicken pox as a kid, your risk of getting shingles increases every year you get older. Well, of course it does. That's basic statistics. Okay. Can I get Shingrix? I guess that's the name of it. Shingrix before age 50. Maybe used in adults age 50 years or older. That doesn't help me. Okay, well... And this one says, why can't you get it before the age of 60? Well, what is it? Okay, FDA has approved it for people 50 and older. CDC discourages receiving it until after 60. Yeah, I don't know. So I got to talk with my doctor a little bit here. So thus concludes the Darren Star medical update portion of this podcast. So let's move on. Let's do a couple of quick personal notes just because we're in that space here, and then we'll move on. So you know how my training is going. There you go. That's the update. TV show recommendation. Apple TV, For All Mankind. I cannot recommend this show highly enough. A buddy of mine posted about it on Facebook. He just wrapped up season 2. I remember coming across a trailer for it on YouTube, like as an ad sometime back, and thinking like, that looks really cool. And it is far better than I would have expected. We actually signed up for Apple TV just so that I could watch this, and it was worth it. So, It worth it in that, it's under my wife's Apple ID, so she's paying for it, and I don't even know how much it costs, but so there's that. How cool is this? So without giving any spoilers away, because they spoil this in the first 90 seconds of the first episode, the premise is back in 1969, the Soviet Union beat the United States to the moon. So it's an alternate history. And how does that change things from then, specifically focused on the space race and NASA and the astronauts, et cetera? How would that change things if the U.S. was not the first, but then we were playing catch up with the Soviets, and we felt like we were at a, potentially a military disadvantage to the Soviets? How would that change history? And it's very, very fascinating to watch that alternate history unfold. Plus, just the storylines of the astronauts and of the other people involved. Super compelling, really well written, well cast, supremely well acted. It's really, really awesome to watch. I like I said, cannot recommend that enough. That's what we're watching right now. We finished season 1. We're on to season 2. And it's super cool. Super cool. The yard update, because I find it very, very weird to say this, but this is 100% true. People are asking about the lawn update and what the status is. So the status is we just got some mulch delivered earlier in the week, which is nice. The yard, it's a mix of some grass, some dandelions, a lot of clover, some crabgrass. I mean, it's a mess. It's a nightmare, right? But we had the guy who delivered our mulch actually. He's going to come back and aerate and overseed next week. We got our sprinkler system reconnected from winterization. That was just yesterday. So I have high hopes. And then only to dash my high hopes, we have a project starting today. There's a lot of stuff going on around here. There's an irrigation project happening. So they're digging a ditch in our front yard and they're digging a ditch in our backyard to fix some drainage issues. So, but these guys know what they're doing and they're going to replace it. So it's not going to look like a complete catastrophic war zone once they're done. Knock on wood. I hope. I have high hopes for that. So we'll see how it goes. And so that project will be done. Fix some drainage issues that are causing some issues, which will actually help the grass as well. And then aerate and overseed next week, and then hopefully he's going to do some fertilizer treatments beyond that. So I'm hoping to have some much better updates here. So we'll see how it goes. And then I think that's it. That's it. That's everything in the world of Darren. It only took me 16 minutes to get through that. So if you made it this far, well, damn, kudos to you. You are a trooper. So let's mark the tape right here. We are 16 minutes and 10 seconds in. I want to talk about something that has been kind of a growing issue here a little bit. And it's something that's always something that's worth talking about, but lately more so. And that is vacations and bodybuilding. So traveling, etc., while trying to, pursue physique-related goals. I will say that as opposed to while trying to follow a plan, because sometimes the answer is don't. I've talked about this before, but it takes on extra importance now that we're starting to consider a post-pandemic life. Not like we're out of the woodwork yet, but there are options returning that would indicate a post-pandemic life. Like, people are vaccinated, they're traveling more. International travel is still tricky, and I wouldn't recommend it at this stage. Just because, the way the CDC has it set up, if you leave the United States, you have to have proof of a negative test to re-enter the States. So you have to get tested wherever your destination is, and it's got to be negative. And if it's positive, you're screwed. You got to quarantine in that other country for 10 to 14 days. Chances are slim, but not slim enough. They're not zero. So, I was hoping to get away for a nice, Cancun vacation or something like that. But as soon as I found that out, I'm like, no, I mean, slim chances, but non-zero chance. And if I get stuck in Mexico and can't work for 10 to 14 days, I'm 100% screwed. So that is a complete non-starter. So until the CDC changes those recommendations or requirements, I'm not going anywhere out of the country. So I need to make sure I can get back in when it's time to get back in. So instead, we're taking a more modest vacation. We're going to Charleston next month. So but it'll be fun. It's not going to be the same, but it'll still be nice. So, but people are, entertaining more of these options, and they are options once again versus, they weren't for some time. So a lot of people have these trips, stacked up like they're making up for lost time. So I've got a lot of clients who are like, oh, it's vacation time. 2 weeks later, oh, we're taking another trip. 3 weeks later, oh, we're taking another trip. I'm like, okay, at some point, you got to make a judgment call on what we're doing here with regards to the plan. So, it's always tricky. My perspective as a coach, what I always tell people, and they will ask me oftentimes, is how can I stay on plan through this trip? And I'm like, well, just stay on plan. There you go. It's easy. I mean, just staying perfectly on plan is always an option, and it's always doable. The question is it worth it? And is that the right choice? Is that the right thing to do? Like this trip that I'm taking next month to Charleston, this is like my pre-contest prep trip, realistically. So did I ask my coach, how can I follow plan? No, I told my coach, I am not staying on plan this week. I'm not working out. I am not eating anything that I'm supposed to. I don't care. I'm going to drink whatever the hell I want, and I'm getting away, and I'm going to have a good time. So, and we'll check back in once I return. We'll see what we've got to do, but I got to unwind. And part of that for me also is, for me, bodybuilding, it's not just a lifestyle, but it's also my career. And so if I'm going on vacation, like, I got to get away from that too. because otherwise it's like a 24/7 kind of thing. And if you want to be successful, I think it's good to be there. But at the same time, when you don't have the option really of walking away from it, like, I do my own workouts. I follow my plan. And when I'm not doing that, I'm worrying about other people's workouts and other people's plans. So yeah, on vacation, I'm not worrying about my own plan at all. I refuse. I just won't do it. Which is why during prep, I won't be planning any vacations. In fact, I picked my show around when I was going to be traveling, just so that I wouldn't have to worry about those two conflicting. So the first thing to ask yourself is it even appropriate, or should it be the goal to stay on plan while you're on vacation? And a lot of that has to do with how consistent you are all the other times. If you're just struggling to be consistent day to day, like you're at home, you're in your regular routine, and you're struggling to consistently follow a diet, you haven't earned any leeway to go off plan when you're on a vacation. So, as far as food is concerned, you don't need a vacation from that. No, stay on your plan. Keep working out. Absolutely. I mean, I need to push you to kind of change your overall habitual structure more towards being on plan. And that would include vacation in that case. If somebody is robotically consistent all the time, they probably would benefit greatly from learning how to be off plan a little bit. So there isn't a right answer for this. It's different for everybody. Some people are like they're barely on plan, they're barely hanging on. It's a real struggle to do it, but then they aren't always successful with it. I'm like, we got to keep working at it. We got to make it so that this isn't such an ordeal to stay on plan. Like, it's got to just be easier, easier to stay on plan. So that you can withstand a little bit of challenge coming in, some circumstances that are maybe seem like they're trying to pull you off plan a little bit, and you can stay the course with it. Once you can do that, and then you bring together, a few good weeks, a couple good months in a row, a good year where you're largely on plan and just, not really stressing it so much. At that point, I'm like, all right, cool. We've earned our stripes now, and at that point also, your metabolic capacity has changed a little bit, where you can go off plan for 5 or 6 days and not really take a big hit. The more consistent you are day to day, long term, and the easier it is for you to be consistent, the more you set yourself up for success. And what a lot of that comes down to is don't fight being on plan. You're doing this voluntarily. So if you can't enjoy the process, if it's just entirely about the results, it's always going to be very temporary. And your ability to weather stretches off plan is going to be diminished as well. So just buy into the process. If you enjoy the process, the results come automatically at that point. So because if you buy into the process, that means you're following the plan, means you're enjoying the plan. Your body is less stressed, so you're not stressed out about following the plan or anything, because that doesn't help anything at all. Like, just go with it. Just go with the flow and enjoy it and have a good time with it. It's supposed to be a journey. It's not all about the end result, but it's about the process that you take to get there. So now, that being said, as I mentioned, it's the answer is different for everybody about what you should do on vacation. But the thing is, like, what I want everybody to go into this with is some realistic expectations. If you go into vacation and you're going to go off plan, you can't whine about coming back up 6, 7, 8, 9 pounds. Like, you went off plan. That's fine. Now we clean it up. So you can't complain about that. You've got to know that there's probably some cause and effect there, That being said, with me, when I've done this in the past, just because I am really consistent on a day-to-day basis, throughout the course of a year, I am very consistent. I'm not perfect, but I'm very consistent. So I can go on a trip where I just give a middle finger to the plan. I'm like, I don't care at all. Screw you. And come back and be within 1.5 pounds of where I was before. Conditioning's a little softer. Everything kind of bounces back to normal within 3 or 4 days. So, that should be kind of the expectation for everybody here. And what you want to do is get yourself to a place where you can do that through long-term consistency. Those boring weeks when you're just grinding things out at home, make it easy. Work as hard as you can, make it simple, make it sustainable, and just rack those. Pull those days off the calendar, mark those days off, and continue pushing for it. That's what you need to do. So, but have a plan, and also it's about working those trips around the phases that you're in. So it's like, hey, we're going to travel. Okay, well, cool. If you're going to travel and you're going to go off plan for all of these trips, and you've been relatively consistent, so that's earned, that's fine. Probably not the best time to continue trying to be in a phase where you're trying to shed body fat, because you really need to be more consistent. And if you have, 3, 4, and 5 day stretches where your whole plan gets interrupted every few weeks, that's no way to do it. You're working way too hard for not enough results at that point. So I would strongly discourage that. So have a plan in place as far as how you tackle that. Big picture, what are you looking at? Talk with your coach. If that's me, talk with me and develop a strategy looking ahead longer term for how to handle that kind of stuff. So that would be my recommendation there. So now there's one other thing that I want to talk about here today. But first, hey everybody, allow me to interrupt myself briefly and just say thank you again for listening. I would love for you to take this episode, share it on social media, tag me there on Instagram at Darren_star in your posts and in your stories, and leave reviews wherever you can. Wherever you listen to this, if the service allows you to leave a review and a rating, do it. I'd forever be appreciative. Also call in and leave a question. Our voicemail line is always open here. The number, if you're ready to write it down, are you ready? 865-518-2974. If you want to be featured in an upcoming episode, let me know. Call in, leave a message there, and give me something to talk about. Also, this podcast is sponsored by me. 5starphysique.com is my business. It features coaching for contest prep or just general non-competitive body transformation as well. I like to go a little bit deeper, a little beyond the surface, beyond just plan writing, and focus on what is preventing you from being successful. And then once we have that figured out, hammer the other stuff really hard and get you to fulfill your potential. If you're not looking for coaching, but you're just looking for like, hey, I need something to do in the gym, I have workout plans available, you can go and browse those online. You can read about coaching if you go to 5starphysique.com. That's star with 2 R's, 5 spelled out, FIVE. You can click on coaching, you can click on workout plans, read about everything there. And if you have questions, of course, just click on contact and hit me up there. That's probably the best way to get a hold of me. Now, where was I before I was so rudely interrupted? Oh yeah, let's go back. Okay, glad we got that out of the way. What's our timestamp at right now? Somebody mark the tape, 27:35. Cool. So a quick conversation is due here about progress photos and about posing for them. And this is another thing we've talked about in the past, but it's worth revisiting just because it seems like every day I'm having this conversation with somebody. It seems like I'm having this conversation with somebody every day because I am. And I talk about this on my page, like when you sign up to work with me, I go over like progress photo guidelines. I give you examples and tell you what to do and what not to do. And some people, they're reading that, but they're also worried about other stuff. Like there's an assessment form they got to fill out, and they're like, pics, okay, cool. And a lot of it is focused. A lot of my instructions is focused on placement, lighting, etc. And then there's notes about posing in there as well. And invariably, those are the things where people are like, okay, I'm just going to stand in front of the camera. That's good enough. Especially people who aren't looking to compete. And so I should post a gallery of all of the weird poses that I get from people that are not anything like what I ask for at all, with arms going in all kinds of weird directions, legs doing all kinds of weird stuff as well. I haven't had anybody post their pics inverted doing handstands yet, but it's coming. It'll happen eventually probably. So just weird. It's like, look at the poses that I'm asking for. Hold on. Look at yours. Do you see any differences here? Like this one is standing fairly normal, straight, head on. You are here now. You got your arms overhead. Like, what are you doing? And some people, they've worked with a coach before in the past. They've taken other progress pics. Maybe they've done it a different way. So maybe they're used to doing it a certain way. I always give people the benefit of the doubt. That's fine, but that's not what I want. So what I'm always looking for are stage quarter turns. I don't care if you compete or not. Now, the quality and accuracy with which you hit that pose is, flexible. If you're looking to compete and it's clear that you don't have the body coordination to hit the pose correctly, we're going to talk about that from a very early time. If you're not looking to compete and you're missing that body coordination, I don't care for purposes of the photos, but you always need to focus on improving that body coordination, that mind-muscle connection, that muscular awareness. So the more coordinated you are, and I'm not talking about your ability to walk on a balance beam or anything like that, but the more you can think about a muscle and activate it, you're going to make it show up in the pose. Great. But it also means that tells me that you can activate it better in the gym as well. That's what really matters. So the best example of this is flare your lats. And I'm going to tell you, probably about 30% of the people that I work with or less can flare their lats properly without practice. Actually, without practice, I would say 15%. Realistic. It's very rare. It's uncommon to find somebody who can do it without really, really practicing it. And some people, I have worked with people that honestly never get it. They never figure it out, which is frustrating for everybody. But also, if you never figure it out, I promise you it's because you're not practicing it enough. It's because the only time you go to practice it is in the 2 or 3 minutes right before you take your progress pics and you realize, oh crap, I haven't practiced this. If you work on it, it's one of those things that is a skill, you will learn it. But you gotta work on it outside of that time when you need to demonstrate it. It's like, if you're playing a sport, you don't only practice for the sport during a game, right? That's why you have practice as well. You got to practice this outside of that time. So this isn't about necessarily tips for how to do it. If you want tips on how to flare your lats properly, go to YouTube and just type in how to flare your lats and start watching videos. There's all kinds of good ones out there, all kinds of good tips. It's a different path for everybody. Like there's so many different strategies and techniques that people employ to make it work. I haven't found one that's any more effective than others necessarily. So just go and watch a bunch of videos and see if one of those clicks with you. But working on that and making sure that you're posing correctly. And by that, I mean go and type in, bodybuilding quarter turns. I don't care if you're man, woman, whatever, it doesn't matter. Bodybuilding quarter turns, whether it's on YouTube or you're doing a Google image search or whatever, look for it. Look at what those poses look like. You're standing there, feet kind of together, arms spaced out from your torso a little bit because we want to be able to easily identify your waist. Look at your V taper, check out your lats. Side pose, everything sucked in, feet together, the torso twisted a little bit. We're able to see that back shoulder. Back pose, same as the front, just turned around the other way. And then side pose, mirror image of the first side pose. So really you've got two poses, a front and a side. Then your back pose is the same thing, just turned around. Your side pose just mirrored the other way. So you really got two poses to learn. But the reason why they do those in bodybuilding for quarter turns is because they give the best overall idea of where your physique is at. So that's why those are the poses that I want to see, regardless of whether you're competing or not. You put your arms overhead, I can't tell what your lat development looks like. I can see your serratus more, but if you hit the front pose correctly, I can see them there too. So those poses are standard for a reason. And that's what I want to see in progress pics. Just bodybuilding quarter turns. Look those up. I provide samples on my website for those as well. So for people who are looking to sign up for coaching and they want to start in on that, I give you samples right there. And, I divide it out into categories like men who are looking to compete, male non-competitors, female competitors, female non-competitors. One thing that's consistent is they're always quarter turns. So, and the trick about that is they aren't mug shots. You're not just standing there. Like on those poses, if the camera can see it, you're going to flex it. But in that pose, that's the important thing. So I get a lot of things that are like front double bicep, back double bicep. I'm like, nope, don't care about that. I really don't. Because nobody can hit a front double bicep and a back double bicep pose correctly while engaging their lats. And it's much more important to get your back and shoulders engaged than it is to show off your bicep peaks. I don't care about that. I want to see your lats and shoulders get engaged first. So it's worth practicing that. It really is. So this is just your public service announcement. practice your posing. It doesn't have to be perfect, but if you can get your lats flared, that's a key thing. Get your lats flared. It gets get your quads engaged on the front pose. Get your midsection pulled in nice and tight on all poses, but especially the side pose. Focus on getting your hamstrings flexed on the back pose with straight legs. That's a trick. That's another one that can be a little challenging to pull off. Can you flex your hamstrings and your glutes together? Excuse me. That's a trick, because oftentimes you can do one or the other, but it's hard to get both together just because there's a lot to think about. It's a lot of muscle to try and manipulate all at once. So if you can do those things, you're well on your way. You're well on your way. So, but it's worth trying regardless of what your goals are, because the benefits that you can reap from developing that coordination and getting better mind-muscle connection on everything is huge. Like, that has a direct translation to how effective your workouts can be. So why would you not want to do that? And I can tell, you look at photos and what everybody wants to do on the back pose is they pull their shoulders back and flex their traps. I'm like, yeah, but show me some width. Show me the lats engaged. Let me see what that looks like. And that's when everybody's brain starts to like scramble and explode. It's like they can't process how to make that work. So that's why watching those videos, how to flare your lats, look at that kind of stuff. That's just an absolute gold mine. Once you do that, I guarantee you, the next time you do a lat pull down or a seated row or something like that, you're going to feel it differently. You're going to be like, oh, okay, cool. It's very, very uncommon to see somebody who has a really well-developed back that can't pose it. Similarly, it's less common also to see somebody who can really, really pose and really flare those lats out and doesn't have much to show for it. There's a pretty direct correlation between those. So that is the end of my sermon for today. That's it. So I don't have a whole lot else. I am, as I mentioned, I am fatigued. I just wanted to get something put out there today, just because it was overdue. So I'm still in the business of looking for interview candidates. I've gotten amazingly few suggestions from people. I think like one realistically. So I would love to see more recommendations for people that I should reach out to see if they want to be interviewed. I'm going to extend an olive branch to a few people that I think might have something to contribute as well. But if you have ideas for me, great, shoot it on over. And as I mentioned before, if you can make an introduction, all the better. So, and as far as this podcast goes, once again, I appreciate you listening. Tell your friends, leave a review online, share the episodes, tag me in them. As we have guests, tag my guests as well. We're going to be seeing more and more of those. I'm going to try and make that kind of a regular thing, as opposed to Kelly, who was here last episode. I think she was like my fourth guest all time in 180 episodes. So we're going to be stepping that up a little bit. So. And these will be on YouTube as well. If there's no guest involved, it's just going to be audio only. But nonetheless, that is another way you can listen to it rather than just a podcast service. So that is it. I appreciate everyone hanging out here and putting up with my rambling for the first 15 minutes here. But we got to some stuff eventually. Topic ideas, hit me up. Voicemails. Since coming back from the hiatus, I have received 0 voicemail calls from anybody. So if you call up and just want to cuss me out, you know what? You'll probably get put on here realistically. So 865-518-2974. Check out thedropset.com. The number's posted there. All kinds of stuff there. You can see the episode archive and check out the rest of my website from there too. So, so I appreciate you hanging out with me. Thank you. We'll be back, I don't know, maybe as early as Friday. We'll see how it goes. If you topic ideas, shoot those over as well. Social media, Instagram at Darren_star. Email me, Darren at 5starfitness.com. Those are the best ways to get a hold of me.